What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO and promoter, Bob Arum, promoter of Undefeated 3-division world champion, who currently is the WBO welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Terence Bud Crawford. With that said, Bob Arum gave somewhat of an update. He did an interview on Barbershop Conversations with Fred, and he stated, when asked about when's the last time he had a conversation with legendary 8-division world champion, Filipino iconic superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao and his team, and Bob Arum got somewhat defensive. He immediately responded, "That's none of anybody's business," when the last time I talked to them. Bob Arum also disclosed earlier that he cannot disclose who Terence Crawford's next opponent is going to be at this current moment because everybody involved wants to keep it quiet until everybody's ready to announce it as a whole. So he stated that this upcoming week, you're going to get an announcement about Terence Crawford's next opponent. And he stated that it's going to be a pay-per-view event and it's going to be a huge event. He kind of hinted that it could definitely be Pacquiao, and also it could be former unified WBC, WBA welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. When Fred's co-host DB asked him a question about Keith Thurman, you kind of got the feeling it could possibly be Keith Thurman. So it feels like those are the two in the running, and also there's still a possibility that he could steal away WBA, Cuban star, welterweight world champion, Yordenis Ugas, away from undefeated, unified, WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, and rival, Errol the True Spence Jr. Now, there's reports that Errol Spence Jr. and Yordenis Ugas are heading to a July showdown. Possibly the target date is around the holidays. July 3rd is the 4th of July weekend. That Saturday, July 3rd, 4th of July is on a Sunday. So it makes sense, right? To place the fight at that point in time because people are on vacation. People are looking to go to events. They're looking to get into stuff, especially seeing as though things are starting to ease up due to the global pandemic. So people are looking for events. People are looking to get out. So that makes sense, especially if you have it in Texas where you could have fans included. You could have, a massive stadium like Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas, host the event. So it just makes sense. His 3 belts would be on the line against Errol Spence. So that makes sense. But Terence Crawford, he's looking to gain leverage when dealing with Errol Spence in negotiations. I believe all of the talk that Terence Crawford is saying, he's not interested in Errol Spence anymore. I believe that's posturing. I think that Terence Crawford is looking to gain leverage. Now, 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter seemed to still be on the table as well, as Bob Arum says that he's been negotiating with Shawn Porter. And when Fred asked him, well, why did those negotiations fall through? He said, I never said they fell through. So it gives you the sense that that could be a possibility as well. Ultimately, Bob Arum stated that we'll get an announcement on Terence Crawford's next opponent this week. Obviously, the super fight that everybody wants to see is Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence, but that's not going to happen. Not anytime soon. Now, also, you have to keep in mind, Bob Arum is looking to secure the biggest fight possible for Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford is also a free agent come October. And Bob Arum, he wants to make a splash with Terence Crawford. Even though he stated that he lost so much money on Terence Crawford, he could build a mansion in Beverly Hills from scratch. He don't want to lose a talent like Terence Crawford, right? Bob Arum, he stated that Errol Spence is the reason that the fight is not happening. He says that if it was up to Al Heyman, PBC founder and advisor, Premier Boxing Champions, the fight would be taking place. He says, but it's simply a case of Errol Spence not wanting to fight, and he's holding up the fight himself. It's not Al Heyman, according to Bob Arum. Also, with that said, Bob Arum stated that Terence Crawford is going to have a huge event, a massive event that's going to be pay-per-view. Well, that leads one to speculate that the fight that's long eluded Terence Crawford, that he's been trying to secure for the better part of 6 years, is Manny Pacquiao. He stated on numerous occasions that's his number one objective, to secure a fight with Manny Pacquiao. Now, we do know Sean Porter obviously is the number one WBO mandatory challenger for Terence Crawford, but recently he tested positive. And so obviously he's going to be on the shelf for at least 2 weeks. So I don't know if they want to take the risk of announcing a Sean Porter fight and Sean Porter can't participate, because you have to take into account that press conferences, things of that nature, is going to have to, be incorporated. And since everything is starting to ease up and clear up, and fans are starting to allow to be back in live sporting events, then you can expect press conferences to start to take place live, okay, with fans in attendance, with media in attendance. You can expect that to start to circle around and start to take place once again. So with that said, we have to see how this unfolds. But my guess is it's going to be Manny Pacquiao, because 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, in a recent interview he did with Fight Hype, he didn't sound too confident that he was going to secure the Manny Pacquiao fight. Now, he stated 2 weeks ago that he was expecting an announcement from Manny Pacquiao himself that they agreed to fight. And since then, his temperature has cooled down on the Manny Pacquiao fight. And most recently, he stated, if I don't get the Pacquiao fight, I'm not hatching all my eggs in one basket with Manny Pacquiao. There's other guys I'm looking to fight. He's back in training camp. So he says, regardless if it's Manny Pacquiao or not, he's looking to fight in June. That's a far cry from what he initially stated and how he was convinced that he was going to get the Pacquiao fight. He sounded far more confident that he was going to land the Pacquiao fight 2 weeks ago than he does now. And we know Manny Pacquiao and his team, they came out and they said they were leaning towards Mikey Garcia, but Terence Crawford is still a viable option as a backup plan. So I believe that maybe they were, that being Pacquiao's team, posturing and trying to get Bob Arum to give up the biggest deal possible for Manny Pacquiao. Now, we know Bob Arum, he stated that Manny Pacquiao, for this long, drawn-out negotiations over years for Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, has been Bob Arum stating that Manny Pacquiao was looking to secure $20 to $25 million. Bob Arum, he stated that Terence Crawford was set to face Manny Pacquiao November 14th, but that fell through. Now, most recently, he stated that there was an investment group willing to put up upwards of $50 million, and Manny Pacquiao number changed from 20 to 25 million to 40 million, with Terence Crawford securing 10 million. Okay. My opinion is this. I believe that it's going to be Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman and Manny Pacquiao, they're both coming off the same amount of layoff, because the last time they both fought was when they fought each other, July of 2019. With that said, I highly doubt that Keith Thurman is going to be the choice. And the reason I say that is because I believe that Keith Thurman, when he stated, I need a tune-up fight before I go into a fight of a caliber of a guy of Terence Crawford's caliber. He says, I want to be able to give 100% against Terence Crawford. So that don't sound like Keith Thurman is 100% confident coming off such a long layoff that he could compete or defeat Terence Crawford. Like, he needs time. And Terence Crawford don't have time. He's staying active. Keith Thurman has it. Now, when it comes to Manny Pacquiao, the layoff, I don't believe he looks at it in the same manner that Keith Thurman does, because he beat Keith Thurman. And Manny Pacquiao has been on the big stage more times than none. So he knows what it takes to, be on this stage. But competitive-wise, I don't think that Manny Pacquiao can compete with Terence Crawford. I think that Terence Crawford will stop Manny Pacquiao. I believe that even in his prime, this may surprise a lot of people, but even in his prime, I believe that Terence Crawford would have defeated Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao now is 42 years old. He's not a world champion, but styles make fights. And years ago, his longtime trainer, Hall of Fame trainer, legendary trainer, Freddie Roach stated that he don't like the Pacquiao fight against Terence Crawford because styles make fights. And he looked at Terence Crawford and said to himself, he can do everything that Floyd Mayweather can do, but he's more ferocious. He's more of a closer at this stage of his career than Floyd Mayweather is. So he don't like the style matchup. And I don't either. Not for Manny Pacquiao. For Terence Crawford, I believe he's going to be victorious. I believe he's going to have a showcase fight. If you look at the Keith Thurman fight with Manny Pacquiao, in the early half of the fight, he dropped Keith Thurman in the first round. 10th, 11th round, he hurt Keith Thurman bad to the body. Looked like he could have stopped Keith Thurman. But for the most part, Keith Thurman was countering Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman was hitting Manny Pacquiao with big, clean punches. Keith Thurman was pressing the fight. And he fought to a split decision in favor of Manny Pacquiao after getting dropped and having such a big round favor of Manny Pacquiao in that 11th round. Well, that speaks volumes because I believe that that was the difference in the fight. So without that, Keith Thurman wins the fight, in my opinion. And I believe at this stage of their career, Terence Crawford is a much better closer than Keith Thurman is. Terence Crawford is more versatile. He can switch from southpaw to from orthodox to southpaw very fluidly. He's a very good counterpuncher. He's very rangy at 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Manny Pacquiao 5'6" with a 67-inch arm reach. So he's going to have a 7-inch arm reach advantage over Manny Pacquiao. And he's going to have a 2-inch height advantage over Manny Pacquiao. Well, Floyd Mayweather, he had a 5-inch arm reach over Manny Pacquiao with a 2-inch height advantage at 5'8" with a 72-inch arm reach. Right? So he's far more rangy. And he's far more ferocious. He's more of a closer than Floyd Mayweather, especially at this stage of their career. And Manny Pacquiao makes a lot of mistakes. And the fact that Terence Crawford can switch from orthodox to southpaw, he transitions from offense to defense very well. I believe that Manny Pacquiao is tailor-made for Terence Crawford because he also can box from the outside. So I'm highly expecting Terence Crawford to win this fight. I'm leaning towards it being Manny Pacquiao. And this is good news for Terence Crawford because he's been trying to secure this fight for the better part of 6 years. So let's see how it unfolds. But if it is Keith Thurman, I'm not mad at the Keith Thurman fight either because styles make fights. So I would love to see how Keith Thurman matches up with Terence Crawford. But I believe the versatility of Terence Crawford, he overcomes Keith Thurman as well. Keith Thurman is vulnerable to the body. Terence Crawford goes to the body very well. Keith Thurman utilized the ring a lot, but he's susceptible to counterpunching. And I believe that Terence Crawford's ability to counterpunch is too great for Keith Thurman, especially at this stage of his career, especially seeing as though Keith Thurman has been inactive for such a long time. You know, it doesn't suit him well to go into a fight straight away with Terence Crawford. I believe that's a bad idea on the part of Keith Thurman and his team if that was to take place. Keith Thurman, 29 wins, 1 loss, 22 wins by way of knockout. Keith Thurman is 5'7.5" with a 69-inch arm reach. So Terence Crawford is going to have a 5-inch arm reach advantage over Keith Thurman and a 1-inch height advantage over Keith Thurman. And he's been active far longer than Keith Thurman has been active. So that's just not going to bode well, in my opinion. Keith Thurman, 32 years old. Terence Crawford is 33 years old. You know, I just believe that that's a bad matchup. It's a super fight for Terence Crawford. Stylistically, I think it favors Terence Crawford. Actually, I think all these fights favor Terence Crawford if your name is not Errol Spence Jr. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Hey, this is Ebony Bridges, Blonde Bomber, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.